Now, you know the big issue at the moment with do you go diesel, do you go petrol, do you go electric? Folk are concerned about the environment and they make their motoring purchases accordingly with the pressure being brought to bear on fossil fuel vehicles, which are, we know, going to fall by the wayside as the years go by. But concerns have been raised about what we make any car out of, be it electric, petrol, diesel, whatever. And is there a significant carbon footprint reduction in the manufacture of said cars? Well, it turns out there might well be. And it might be closer to home than you think. Weeds? Making bits of cars out of weeds? Matt Porter is the Gadget man, joins us on the show. Hello, Matt.
Hello there.
Welcome, as always. Good afternoon to you. Now, is this cobblers?
No, it's something that's been looked at and worked on at the moment. So where we have dashboards or plastic areas of the car that are made out of plastic, there's now research and development going into making plant-based plastic or plant-based polymers. So the idea behind that is obviously it's a carbon sorry, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's carbon neutral because the plants that you're using to make this plant-based polymer has already extracted CO2 from the atmosphere. So it's already in a positive before you even start. You're using something that's already carbon positive. So that's one of the things is they're doing is looking at making these like plastic dashboards and things like that from plant-based plastics, which also will eventually break down into their natural state again, so you don't end up with mountains of plastic floating around in our oceans.
I'm slightly confused by that, because if we didn't make bits of cars out of plants, they would still be converting CO2 into oxygen, wouldn't they? Aren't we just stopping them from doing that?
Well, no, we're not. We're not doing that because the offset against manufacturing plastics from oil, which is what oil, obviously plastics made from, is an oil-based material, then obviously that's causing enormous amounts of damage to our environment. So simply removing that manufacturing process out of the equation will effectively make a massive difference. And of course, we can grow more plants. You know, if we're concerned that we're killing these plants early to make them into dashboards, then we can also always plant more. That's a fairly straightforward thing to do. So that's a good thing.
It's embryonic at this stage, Matt. Are we aware of how the motor manufacturers have received this news? Are they looking to go down that route?
I think motor manufacturers are pressured immensely to go down more a greener path in whatever they do. There's currently they're looking at taking parts from cars that have already been used that might have been written off or scrapped or things like that, actually removing those parts proactively from these cars now and reusing them, and they effectively become green as well because there's no manufacturing footprint for that particular car because the parts have already been manufactured for a previous car. So again, I come from a time when I spent all my life down a scrapyard when I was 18, getting bits of cars.
As we did,
You did that, and it was easy to maintain cars, or easier to maintain cars. Yeah. But it's just simply using that kind of ethos where we're, instead of just throwing these things away or crushing them and then being useless, that taking these parts and reusing them. So I think there's a whole it's a body behind it.
Really interesting point, because everybody thought vehicles like the Prius were the future, and then of course the news broke that actually they had a significantly higher carbon footprint in manufacture, and then everybody said, oh well, what are we supposed to do then? So clearly something has to give, and you think plant-based plastics, bioplastics, might well be the future.
Well, it goes some way to repairing the damage that we may have done to our environment. Certainly, I think you're talking about Priuses, where the manufacturing of the lithium batteries was supposedly using fossil fuel to manufacture those things, and I think that's something that is also being actively worked on at the moment, is to ensure that these factories that are producing things at massive scale are using eco-friendly methods to do it, renewable energy sources to do it. I mean, it's no secret the environment's sort of in a mess, so we all have to, I think, work together, and big industry is also the first place to start, really.
Huge pressure to reduce use of plastics, obviously, certainly single-use plastics. I'm surprised that if we're able to make bioplastics, i.e. material from plants, weeds, whatever, I'm surprised we haven't already done it, or at least looked hard into it. The pressure on plastics has been around for a while.
Well, it has. I've seen biodegradable bags and things like that for many years. In fact, I remember going on holiday in Ireland, and I stayed in this hotel room that obviously no one had stayed in for a long time, because I threw something into the bin, and the bin bag just disintegrated into little bits of flakes.
Right.
Because it was a biodegradable bag. So we have used biodegradable plastic. I received a magazine through the other day from one of the RSPB or something, and that came in a biodegradable plastic, a plant-based wrapping. So it looked like a clear plastic, but in fact it said on it was made from plant-based materials. So there is, it's enormous scale, isn't it? It's a big thing, a big mountain to climb to do these things, but yeah, I don't suppose they can just switch off the machines one night and switch them on the next morning and start throwing stinging nettles and bogweed into it, you know.
This is the issue, isn't it? It's like you hear stories, used to hear stories, certainly, of people having invented the light bulb that never blows and things like that. We are capable of producing electricity that doesn't cost anything. Stories like that. And you wonder, well, what other powers are brought to bear on this? Is there a group of people that say, we don't really want this, it doesn't suit, we'll try and hold it back a bit? Do you suspect that's going on?
There's always been that kind of I think the whole thing with the oil companies keeping patents in safe so that they can continue their domination of the market, and all of those kind of things that are easy to sort of go along with. I think there's probably some degree of protectionism. There has to be. People are protecting their established businesses, and they'll do whatever they can to protect their businesses and their shareholders and all of those kind of things. But I think it's bringing in replacements which allow them to continue to succeed as businesses. Like you look at petrol stations now are looking at installing charge points in their petrol station forecourts. So there's a lot of proactiveness going on, but it's going to take a while, and it's fairly urgent as well. There's no secret that it's urgent that we do something very quickly to sort of start trying to undo the damage that we've done.
Here's the thing, though. Every sort of step forward we make seems to be a struggle. If I could give you the example of, for instance, Sizewell C. Now, without going into the ins and outs of that, there's been significant reaction to it. There's been a lot of people say, we don't want the damn thing here. So at some point, something's got to give, right? We're going to need electricity, so we have to say, well, OK, in that case, we're going to have this, or we're going to have that.
Interestingly, I think that I can't find the link at the moment, that there's a Twitter account that I follow that gives you the live usage of the national grid. Yeah. And
I can tell you what it is right now.
Yes, in fact, I think I got it from you.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me one little bit. Yeah. At the moment, let me tell you what's happening at the moment. The demand on the country's electricity supply is 39 gigawatts. Out of that, 13% is being produced by nuclear. Wind is providing 15% at the moment. Coal and gas, 44%.
Yes. In fact, I think Is that not? I should imagine coal is zero, is it? And gas is taking up the 40%. Would that be right?
Yeah, I don't know. They provide the figures together. They don't separate those two figures. Well, there is a separate one for coal, which is on zero. I think I've misled you there. CCGT is gas turbine, isn't it? So it's
That's
gas.
Right, yeah. And I would imagine, we got, looking at the 18% of our electricity currently is solar.
Yeah.
So, which is good. I think that in the last few months and a couple of occasions, I think solar was doing 26% of our electricity generation, which is fantastic. So wind and solar are obviously the ones that we're happy about. Not so much the others, although the argument is having nuclear can produce an enormous amount.
If you take if you take away non-renewables, you're left with nothing close to what the country requires. If you're left with just wind, nuclear, solar, you're not even close to what the country requires. Yeah. That's the problem.
We're looking at 40% at the moment renewable. I mean, I'm looking at one called Gridwatch, but you might be looking at something else. But it's good. I mean, that's really positive stuff. The fact that that these renewable energy sources can supply the energy, because that's the stock argument in the pub. Yeah. We can't. We're not going to be able to cope without these power stations. Well, we're kind of getting there. So it's good. It's all good.
Great to speak to you, Matt. As always, the Gadget Man, Matt Porter. Have a great afternoon, my friend.
You too. Cheers.